Hello, my name is Alessandro and this is Politics with a P Plater. I've always been extremely interested in Australian politics, so with some encouragement from my friends and family and a lot of courage, I've decided to put myself out there and ask your burning questions. Across the podcast, I'll be interviewing members of the House of Representatives and the Senate, as well as political fanatics like myself, and maybe even some journalists. So join me along the way as we prepare to elect the 47th Parliament of the Commonwealth of Australia. Well, this is exciting. Here we are, episode 1 of the pilot episode. My name's Alessandro and I'm the host of Politics with a P Plater. I'm joined today by my two very close friends, Ethan DeLima and Joshua Boult. Gents, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks for having me.
This is exciting.
It is. I've always said we were going to do a podcast or like an episode or something, and here we are.
I don't think my ego could survive a whole podcast, but I'm happy to come on for one episode. Yeah, sure.
That would be good. I'm going to get us started. Let's look at the highs and lows of Australian politics and the defining moments. So I'll kick us off. I think one of my many highs, the major high I think was probably 2017, 2018 with same-sex marriage plebiscite. It was quite a big moment, especially after like the whole, even during Julia Gillard's prime ministership, it was something that was being discussed. They had civil unions they were considering. Malcolm Turnbull initially said that he supported civil unions during the Gillard government. So it was sort of something, I guess, that came quite quickly in the last sort of 2 years the first 2 years really of the Turnbull government. I
think it was fantastic as well because the voter I guess it was done by the ABS, but the turnout of the actual of the poll was actually really, really cool, and it was really large.
It was 80%.
Yeah, which is just pretty fantastic considering it wasn't compulsory like normal elections would be.
And Aussies have quite high. I know we've got compulsory elections and referendums, but we do have, generally speaking, high turnouts.
Yeah.
And the turnout is normally only 90%, roughly 91%.
We probably could have saved a bit of money without the plebiscite. That was probably unneeded. I think we all knew Australia's a pretty diverse country.
Yeah.
And
internationally, we're looked at as pretty conservative, but I feel like in terms of social issues, we're pretty liberal.
Progressive,
and there was a lot of unnecessary comments on the lives of people from LGBTQI plus communities, and I'm sure that would have been very hard for them, that election campaign. But it was still monumentous.
Absolutely. My favourite part was probably the end after it was passed, when they started singing we are one, but we are many. That was really nice. I hadn't seen that before.
Was it Warren Entsch with the
rainbow flag?
With the rainbow flag, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was a couple. There was the I think it was Trent Wilson. I want to say
Tim Wilson.
Tim Wilson, Trent Zimmerman. They're both homosexual, aren't they? I believe so.
Tim Wilson is. And he proposed.
Yeah, and he proposed in the speech, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I sent an email to his office today requesting an interview with him, so that could be.
He's a Victoria member.
Well, we'll see if that happens.
That's very exciting.
But I think even Malcolm Turnbull summed up the day really well. He said, what a day for love, what a day for equality. And I think that's sort of what it was all about, really, when it came down to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, what are your highs?
Josh, you want to go first?
Yeah, I think my high, it comes out of a low, I guess. But it was a necessary thing to be done in the Australia's political history, and that was the apology by Kevin Rudd in 2008. 2008, seven.
It was 7?
7. We'll go with 7.
All right, I think 2007's accurate.
Yeah, all right, let's go with that. Yeah, we should have done some research before we went on. Whoops. But anyway, I think while there is a long way to go in terms of reconciliation, be it Indigenous representation to Parliament or some sort of constitutional recognition, I think the overall that was something that needed to have been done. And while it was a little bit bittersweet, I think it is definitely a high. And I don't think anyone could really argue with that. It would have been something that needed to be done. And I think that's fantastic.
We would have been only in prep, but even through our entire schooling, you kept on coming back to that speech, and Kevin Rudd really did it very well.
Oh, yeah. And I think that was one of the major election campaigns too. like that massive differentiation between Labor and Liberal at the time. Labor was very pro-apology at the time, and Liberal just sort of really didn't have a bar of it. But yeah, definitely an important aspect.
Absolutely.
Well, both of yours were on my high list. So then I had like a third option. I was thinking Tony Abbott eating an onion, Bill Shorten asking, what's your favourite type of lettuce? But I came up with George Brandis admonishing Pauline Hanson after she wore the burqa in Parliament. I thought he gave a really nice speech, really heartfelt speech. He even teared up. Just a publicity stunt that Pauline Hanson pulled, and he really struck it down. And because she wanted people to ban the Australian government to ban the burqa, and she said, and he basically admonished her, saying no. And I thought that was a really nice speech, high moment in Australian politics.
Yeah. And I have no idea where George Brandis stands factionally within the Liberal Party, whether he's conservative or moderate, but that's still a big thing, regardless of where you are on the political spectrum within the Liberal Party, to come out against something that is seen as rather conservative. And I'm sure there may be, people who possibly agreed with it. I've never met anyone. But yeah, it's definitely a similar sort of thing to the apology. It was something that needed to be done.
But even with like
was done really well.
Even like with Fraser Anning, like that whole thing, it was condemned by everyone. And I think that's pretty similar with the Pauline Hanson burqa case. Like everyone just sort of jumped on the bandwagon and was like,
for the right reason.
Yeah,
for the right reason.
Yeah, it was very bipartisan, which is good. One thing I am going to say, which I was questioning whether or not I'm going to say it, but for me as a monarchist, the Republic debate, winning the referendum was my favourite bit. But even though I wasn't there for it, but
just a bit of context, Josh and I are Republicans.
Yeah.
Staunch Republican
movement.
Actually, I think that's how we became friends, because you guys liked antagonising me as a monarchist.
I think it was the other way around. I think you talking about the Queen of Australia really just got to Ethan and I. But anyway,
yeah.
I think we should just skip this topic.
Look, I'm happy to sit on this for a bit longer. But sure, we can move on.
I mean, look, up to you guys. I'm going to hit now the lows of politics. Mine isn't anything specific, but I think it's just the general decorum of Parliament, in particular the way women have been treated in politics recently. So obviously you had Julia Banks on the Liberal Party who claimed or alleged that a bullying occurred. You had Emma Hassar on Labor Party, alleged bullying. Recently we had Senator Kimberley Kitching, who passed away, who we actually met
at school.
That's right. I still have my Constitution in my bag
that she gave us.
Me.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I guess it's pretty prominent on all sides of politics. So for me, I think that's a general low. That I think we as Aussies expect better from our politicians and elected officials.
Absolutely.
Definitely agree.
Well, there's a long way to go there. I don't know whether...
What do you think the answer is?
Well, see, that's the thing. I think the answer is probably, in my opinion, of course, is listening. I don't think, myself as a straight white cis male, I can sit here and go, this is how we fix a problem that people like me have created. So I think it might be doing a lot of listening, a lot of re-education, and then meaningful change.
Would you think an ICAC or something like that, or a HR department in Parliament?
Even a HR department will go through all the bureaucracy in just government bureaucracy that nothing will really get done. Like he got the chief of staff, I believe Scott Morrison got the chief of staff to investigate it, and nothing really happened.
But that's even like Senator Kitching now. Like Albo
exactly.
was told to investigate it, and I would assume because it's so close to an election, he's decided not to.
Or if he has, he might keep the findings on the down low.
Until after the election, which is disappointing because I guess, we were told to expect that, we're told to believe that the Liberal Party essentially had this really bad track record. But now it's, come out that it's on both sides of politics.
And I think it's interesting the silence from like powerful voices in the media, like Lisa Wilkinson, for example, just give it a shout out. She was very vocal, correctly so, with Brittany Higgins, Grace Tame. Kimberley Kitching came out about the bullying from Penny Wong, Katie Gallagher, Christina Keneally. Nothing.
Yeah.
But you just know if it was a Liberal... If, say, Maurice Payne, Anne Rustin and Michaela Cash were accused of bullying a late Liberal senator, she would be all over it.
Mhm.
There would be a lot more coverage from
absolutely. And even Linda Reynolds, like she turned around, it's actually on YouTube in a Senate committee hearing. She turned around and she said along the lines, I'm not quoting it directly here, but like alluded to the fact that because of like the intense stress and pressure of the committee hearing, which was where she was being questioned by those three Labor senators, that she ended up in hospital. So, and then Emma Hassar, a Labor member as well, said that it was that she had.
I mean, that questioning from Linda Reynolds was warranted, I reckon, though, because it was in relation to the Brittany Higgins.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not doubting that, but I just was trying to connect a pattern there, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
it's
think
pretty intense
Either
stuff.
way, it's shown that with issues like this, be it related to gender, race, ethnicity, nationality, sexuality, there's no black or white answer. There's lots and lots of grey areas, and often, particularly in our society today, there's a lot of over politicizing of issues that don't need to be politicized, I should say. This being one of them.
Absolutely. What are your lows?
Well, look, don't want to bring the Republican debate back.
I was waiting for this.
But look, I'm going to be honest. The dismissal of Gough Whitlam.
It was the greatest moment in Australian political
It was
history.
executive overreach.
It was
be
not.
real.
Let's be honest, okay? he couldn't get the budget
There's
passed.
better ways much better
okay,
ways of doing
so
it than
if we're
dismissing
gonna-
a sitting government
if we're gonna
without the
enter-
consent of the people.
Well, 2 points. First of all, Gough Whitlam at the next election was not re-elected. So it
Okay.
shows that the Australian people concurred with the then Governor General, Sir John Kerr. But also, I forgot what my second point was.
It's good.
But it was a legal constitutional convention
Yeah.
that was used to resolve a constitutional crisis. That's what it's
Right.
there for.
Well, listen, I think regardless of, I'm sure there's a lot of validity into the pitfalls of the Whitlam government in the 70s. I don't doubt for a second that we needed things like, the budget to be passed. Otherwise we'd risk a government shutdown. Is that what was at stake here?
Yeah.
I think there are heaps or hundreds of better ways to have gone about doing that. I know it was Fraser was the opposition. Was it? No. It was
It was Malcolm Fraser.
Yeah,
who
Malcolm
came
Fraser,
first,
yeah.
He served for 7 years.
I think, it would have benefited from a little bit of bipartisanship, but that's just me being all very liberal and
I think
schmaltzy.
I actually agree with you, like that the dismissal was low.
Mm.
All the circumstances surrounding it was a low. But
May
I
we
think
say God save the Queen.
because nothing will say the Governor General. But I disagree with you where I think the mechanism used was appropriate, whereas you guys, I guess, would not.
Absolutely not appropriate.
All right, Ethan.
My
Lama?
low moment, I had two. One was the recycling of PMs. So
Oh, yeah.
the whole
Right,
Rudd.
Gillard.
Rudd, Abbott, Turnbull, Morrison.
Mm.
At least Morrison stayed for a bit now, 3 years. If he wins the election in a couple of weeks, he'll overtake Paul Keating for longest serving in terms of years, amount of time.
What about
Paul Keating was longer though.
Paul
What-
Keating was 4 years.
Was he only 4 years
From
Menzies?
91.
to 96? Because 96 was John
reckon?
Howard.
Oh, well, Wikipedia was wrong then.
Let me have a look. You keep on talking.
And the other one was the journalist raids in 2019 on Annika Smethurst
absolutely.
and the ABC.
Yeah.
Annika Smethurst published articles regarding the Australian government wanting to potentially spy on Australian citizens, gain access to our personal details, including emails, bank records, texts. And the ABC wrote an article about the Defence Force committing unlawful killings in Australia, and they got their house. Well, Annika Smethurst got her house raided,
Yeah.
and the ABC had their offices raided.
Yeah, I think obviously as well, and again, I'm keeping my stance on the way in which our government has run out of this, but for a government that prides itself on liberal democratic values, you only need to read any sort of, academia on the subject to know that the media is the fourth estate in a liberal democracy. It's responsible for holding the government to account. And, these killings, again, still before the courts. I'm sure there is a substantial amount of evidence to suggest that they went ahead, and I myself have reason to believe that. But and they needed to be, the public needed to know, you know. I think,
and the power, I guess, to go into. I mean, was it without a? No, it was with a warrant.
Yeah,
but like. Just that power, like my journalism teacher at the moment at uni, she told me a story. She was in Vietnam, and she wrote a story about domestic violence. And her friend was also a political reporter and commentator at the time. And the police would go into their houses and rearrange the photo frames, the location of all the photo frames in the houses, just to intimidate them and tell them that they had been there. And when she released her article on domestic violence, she got called into like the commissioner's office and was told to explain herself. And she had to explain why.
Commissioner being the High Commissioner, or
I'm not sure.
An official from Vietnam.
Well, she was living in Vietnam,
Right,
so one of the police like commissioners of the local police branch, I assume. But yeah, I guess just put it in perspective as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
What were your defining moments?
Definitely the misogyny speech.
Can I just say, sorry, I love how this is so structured. It's awesome.
Well,
What were your defining moments?
I can tell you now, episode 2 and 3 are not going to be this structured.
No, it's good. We need the things to talk about. Otherwise, we're just going to sit here and insult you,
which is quite easy to do.
Yeah,
definitely the misogyny speech, like hands down for me. I remember, and like I probably lean more to the right of centre in politics, but I remember, like as a young boy in year 3, remembering the moment when I was told by my year 3 teacher that we had a female prime minister. And then, you know, becoming more politically active, I guess, or more politically aware, right up till year 6, watching, I guess, the treatment of Julia Gillard throughout politics. And, you know, when she turned around, and rightfully so, she turned around and she said, you know, I will not be lectured about sexism and misogyny by this man. I will not. I thought, you know, it was quite powerful, and also, you know, how she turned around throughout her speech, and she made reference to, you know, the fact that comments were made about how her father died in shame, or how, you know, members of the opposition stood next to signs saying ditch the witch, or described her as a man's bitch. I thought that was quite terrible, and like no politician, especially the Prime Minister, should be treated like that. And as I said, I do lean towards the right of centre, but for me, I was quite disappointed in the way our politicians behave then, and I commend her on her speech.
Yeah, absolutely. They got, was it ABC or The Guardian or some media outlet voted it as the most memorable speech or memorable moment in Australian political history.
Yeah, and it wasn't even a prepared speech either.
No.
She turned around, she said, I can't remember if she was speaking at like a university, and she said that the only note she had was stuff that she wrote in the chamber, like on some scrap pieces of paper. But she knew beforehand that the opposition, that Tony Abbott was going to bring forward this motion about, you know, misogyny and the speaker and stuff. So she said, and I'm quoting her here, she said, I asked my office to look up some like quotes on Tony Abbott, which quote wasn't regarded as a hard research task. And then that just formed the backbone of her speech, and she's still got those 2 a day. So definitely for me,
very talented.
Misogyny speech and gun reform.
That's a big one. Yeah,
John Howard with Port Arthur massacre.
Important, and I think the statistics for that speak for themselves. I mean, literally, I opened my phone this morning and saw a really sad news headline in Sacramento in the US of a mass shooting, which is something that we you know, admittedly haven't had since Port Arthur, thankfully, as well. So that's fantastic. I was going to say as well, a defining moment, the 67 referendum.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know, affording those of First Nations heritage the right to be counted in a census and voting rights.
Not even that, just not even counted as flora and fauna.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I think that's probably very, very important.
My defining moment was just the response to the GFC.
Oh yeah.
And I think that was on the back of the introduction of the GST. So they're going to go hand in hand. GST, of course, was unpopular at the start. Our government had a reduced number of seats when they introduced it. I think it was 98 election against Kim Beazley, but they eventually recovered, and it gave us a stable tax revenue that's come in. Of course, it's controversial with lower income earners bearing the brunt. But it really set us up nicely for the GFC, getting that budget surplus, and we weren't affected by the GFC, and it helped us with the mining boom become a really prosperous nation compared to other countries that struggled after the GFC.
Ethan, the commerce student.
Yes.
Lecturing us.
What about now? How do you think that compares to now, though? Like post-COVID-19?
I mean, because of the GFC, we had to increase our debt, which we're still trying to pay off. Post-COVID, I think we've done pretty well. Of course, people aren't earning that. They had to increase expenditure with JobKeeper, JobSeeker. Is there another one? Can't even remember. But we're getting there. We should be able to pay for that.
I think as well, just linking that back before we move on to the next topic, obviously it's something that we're in the midst of at the moment, but a global pandemic. That's pretty defining.
Yeah.
It's the biggest thing to happen to us in our lifetime.
Yeah, since the war.
Yeah, since World War II. But yeah.
All right, well, we'll move on to our next segment now. Questions without notice. Now, initially when I was writing this, I was going to say what the speaker says, which is, as the time is now approaching 2 p.m, I call the Prime Minister. But then I thought you guys would go, no, it's not. It's like 5. So I took it out.
Smart. That's a very smart decision. You would have been absolutely canned for that.
I know. But do you guys have any questions without notice? Like, just generally speaking, politically wise?
Why are buildings called buildings if they're already built?
Right.
I had a question. If you had to have a dinner with 3 current politicians in Australia, who would you pick and why?
Current?
Actually, let's go one. One politician.
One?
One.
Oh,
1 on 1 dinner.
I'd probably go Jackie Lambie. I like her.
No, but like that's the one-on-one.
Oh, no, I thought we were doing 3.
Okay,
Yeah.
well,
let's go
3.
three,
Sure,
let's
put
go
it in.
Jackie Lambie. I like Andrew Hastie, the Assistant Defence Minister. Don't sigh. And then who else?
It's better be good.
See, if it was the last election, I would have said Christopher Pine and Julie Bishop 100%.
Just for some laughs?
No, I like them. I find them both interesting.
Right.
They've got a really good relationship. I reckon I'd just piss myself laughing the whole time. I don't know who the third person would be.
That's a bit of an eclectic. There's a lot of different intellects there.
I reckon Jackie would just be yelling at them the whole time for
yeah,
their corruption or
it'd
whatever.
be interesting. Interesting.
What about you?
I don't know. It's a tough one. I don't know. Maybe I just get, Albo and ScoMo in there, and I just let them just do their thing in front of me and just argue.
Should you invite Tony Smith as the speaker?
Yeah, exactly. I'll have my own mini question time, and I'll just sit there and eat, and they can just hit me with policy.
You'd be like an only child with 2 parents
Two
who about to
arguing
divorce
parents,
or something like that.
And I have to choose which one I want to stay at and which one I want to go to on weekends. I think, I've always, being an international relations student as well, I'd love to talk to Maurice Payne as the foreign minister. So I think that'd be really cool. And maybe even Penny Wong's obviously the shadow foreign minister. So that's a possibility as well. But yeah, I've been really fortunate enough with uni and stuff to meet some really cool people who have worked in various different intergovernmental organizations, and but yeah, I think it'd be cool to hear it from an elected representative as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
be exciting. My question without notice is, do you think our generation is more politically active? I mean, it was actually on notice because I told you the question before.
You've given us 3 questions on questions about notice, and they're right in front of us.
So this one here is on notice.
Right. Okay.
But do you think our generation's more politically active?
I don't think so.
I think our generation has more access to political information. I don't necessarily believe that people are politically active.
Do you think it's perceived as being politically active though because of social media
and
the ability to share things?
I think there are a lot of people in various different parts of society who are very loud and use social media to that effect. I think if you took a random sample of 18 to 25-year-olds, I think there would be people who are everyone would be up to date on a lot of issues, be it climate or maybe even racism or racial tensions within the country and globally. But I don't necessarily think people are any more politically active, which is a shame because I feel like everyone should be to some extent.
I would say they're more politically disenfranchised.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think everyone has like an issue they particularly care about, like you said, Josh. Will it be climate change, racism, housing,
Yeah.
education, gender
Cost of living.
equality? But like, I wouldn't say that they have a particular interest in politics. Like, no one's going to go, oh yeah, I'm a member of a Liberal Party or something like that. I'm a young Liberal. I'm a young Labor. No one's doing that now.
Yeah,
At
no
least
one
from
would
my
ever say
generation,
that.
I don't think so.
Yeah, no. Sure. I'll go
Unless
with
with
that.
family, yeah. I don't think people are joining parties anymore.
Oh, no. I think it's issues based.
No, that's true. It's probably a lot more based off activism, but yeah.
All right. Josh, do you have a question without notice, or are we skipping?
Question without notice.
Or are the
I've already
questions-
asked my questions. You none of you
Yeah.
answered it. Why are buildings called buildings if they're already built?
I'll take that on notice.
Okay.
All right. So, final part, election predictions. So, the election as of yet has not been announced. So, obviously, the last 3 years have been pretty big. We've had the bushfires, the floods, a lot of environmental issues. We've also had a high, which I think is Australia's response to China, searching for the origins of COVID-19. Thought that was very, very good, despite the sanctions. Obviously, we had COP26, AUKUS, French fallout as a result of that. And then now recently, Morrison's character is being questioned.
Not Morrison's charter. Al has put Morrison's. He's written Morrison's
it was
charter.
12:30.
I'm like, has Morrison been flying on some charter
Yeah,
flights?
what is the Morrison doctrine? I'd like to hear it.
As I was talking, they were both pointing at it and looking at each other, like trying to figure out what the charter was. But
Obviously, I
yeah,
haven't been
Morrison's
paying
character
attention.
has been put into question recently. So I guess that's been the last 3 years summed up broadly. Highs in there, lows in there.
Yeah.
I think like AUKUS and China, I think we're good.
See, Scott Morrison with
disagree.
the bushfires struggled, then he rose with COVID.
I know
Struggled
it's
with the parliamentary with the scandal regarding the Brittany Higgins, Grace Tame. Then came back a bit again with COVID, with lockdowns, and then he's gone down again. It's a roller coaster with this bloke.
yeah, it definitely is.
So, what are you asking us, Al? What is it?
well, I guess what do you think the major election issues are going to be? What do you think your predictions are for the election?
Any election going forward is going to climate's got to be top three. Probably, I would like it to be the issue. So absolutely that. And you just look around, look at any headline. Lismore going underwater twice. Byron Bay going underwater. Brisbane, record breaking, not baking. Well, they were baking. Fires.
Jesus Christ! I can't believe you said that.
Anyway, I thought it was a bit of a slip of the tongue, but yeah, record breaking fires. It's just gonna get worse, particularly in a place or a land of weather extremes like Australia. Cost of living, that's going to be a big one. I think it's nice that petrol is below $2 a litre now, but particularly because I got to fill up this afternoon. But things are gonna get pricey. Obviously, there's inflation and things to contend with. And yeah, look, I don't want it to be tensions with China to be an issue, but I know it's just
It's bound to be.
it's the nature of the Morrison government, and obviously now you've got Albanese and this
I
whole
wouldn't say it's the nature of the Morrison government.
Manchurian candidate
I think it's.
thing.
I personally think it's just something that's not necessarily a conflict, but
Oh,
definitely an escalation.
there's-
But I don't think that's a result of Morrison.
Well, no, of course not. But
And I think
it's going to be a big issue that he's going to play up in order
He can
to
easily
offset
do it, yeah.
some issues that other people are
with
going to be looking
Labor,
at.
obviously. But also at the same time, Labor's agreed with AUKUS. Labor's said in their budget
The Quad
reply,
Alliance, yeah, exactly.
Quad Alliance in their budget reply, they're going to increase defence spending to above 2%. So it's very. I think the issue with China is quite bipartisan.
In terms of major issues, I think any elections decide on the economy. To quote Christopher Pine, that's what he said.
He's a fixer.
Yeah,
He fixes things.
particularly with jobs as we recover after COVID. China again is another big issue. My last one was aged care.
Oh yeah.
I think that just again from COVID, the lack of funding for aged care. I mean, Albanese with the Labor budget reply, massive funding in aged care, and I think that could be a real big decider. I don't see any party gaining to majority government. I don't
Same.
think so. All parts of majority go through Queensland and New South Wales. ALP have great signs in South Australia, West Australia, Victoria, but they'll pick up like 3 to 4 seats. And in the New South Wales seats of like Gilmore, Reid, Macquarie, they're not doing very well. Albo's not popular in Queensland, despite Palaszczuk being probably the most successful female politician in Australian history, at least modern Australian history.
And Labor in Queensland.
But she's struggling. Plus parachuting Christina Keneally into a diverse seat. It's not very good. But at the same time, LNP can't afford to lose any seat.
Yeah.
They'll lose some in WA, but anything they lose, they have to offset with a gain in New South Wales. So I can't see anyone getting to majority.
Same. I agree. Well, on that note, I think that's all we have time for today. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks
It
for
was
having us.
fun, man.
Really
It was
good.
fun.
It was fun.
Keep it up.
To keep up to date on future content, please visit our Instagram page, p_Plato_politics. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Alessandro Rossini, and you've been listening to Politics with a P Plate.